All right, welcome back to the Good Leader Podcast. This is going to be our third podcast for this year with my co-host Dave and our special guest Steve. He's a business owner. He also a co-owner here at Gain Station Gym, right? That's correct. And today we're going to talk about having a strong circle of friends and men around you. And go ahead, Miguel, put in the intro right there. Basically kind of a topic for the day, because me and Dave kind of just been building off things for the year, Steve, is just to kind of over the people around you, like how that kind of affects how you actually are as a person. Because I'm a firm believer, if like the people around you they're not really doing the same thing as you, then they're just going to end up either holding you back somewhat or just kind of distracting you from what you're trying to do. I don't know what your thoughts are about something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's all about like the inner circle and who you run with and that type of thing. I mean, going back to when I was a kid, right? Or we're all kids, we used to run with a bunch of derelicts, I'm sure. And it's like we're a derelict ourselves back in the day, right? And so like as the older you get, you start to realize, the saying is the proximity that you're in, And so you surround yourself, you put yourself in the proximity of those like-minded individuals, that have like the same beliefs as you, the same standards as you. And so they could go negative or positive, right? So I think it's the inner circle that you surround yourself with is the most important thing for sure.
It's kind of that old trope, that always comes up as show me the five people you hang out with the most and I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. The reason I kind of came up with the topic was it was almost a geared towards like networking, because I always tell people, like, for me, coming over here and starting to, work and pass a little bit, like I didn't know Miguel, I didn't know Dave, I didn't know you. And I try to tell people, I'm like, if you don't put yourself out there and you kind of sometimes meet people, you may not know each other, but you're alike. Like, oh, this person does kind of shit that I do. And you kind of build off of that to network and either become friends or even business stuff. And people sometimes don't understand the value of that anymore. And I always tell people, like, it's cool you're on social media, it's cool but when you meet them in real life, me and Dave always laugh about that. They're not the same person. Mm-hmm. And you're like, so at some point you have to actually talk to people.
For sure. Yeah. No, networking is huge. I mean, I started my first business back in 2008 and quit all my careers in 2010. Networking back there, there was what we had, fucking MySpace, which is like, so it's like that was like through dial-up and shit. So we used to have to go to BMI networks and like actually shake hands, meet people, get your name out there, hand out business cards, So networking was the only way to build businesses back in the day, and it's still so important. I mean, you see it here in Gain Station. I mean, that was like one of the main focuses of mine when my wife came to me and said, hey, I want to start a gym. And when we brought partners in, like I used to own CrossFit gyms. So the community behind CrossFit gyms, like where everybody's giving high fives and knuckles and, working out together. I wanted to take that same idea and bring that to the open gym side, just because the networking, instead of having earbuds in and listen to your own music, I wanted everybody to kind of not network, but like talk to each other, And all these gyms that I go to whenever I travel, like the cool vibe culture gyms, like a lot of them, like the Hive in Scottsdale is one of the pinnacles of that, of a networking thing. I've met so many cool people at the Hive that I don't even know them at all, like personally, but now I'm good friends. Every time I go over to Scottsdale, Arizona, it's like I go to the Hive and I see good friends that I've met at the Hive,
Yeah, because I think there's always that solid foundation with people that you go to the gym. One thing, they go to the gym, they work out. So it means there's some level of like discipline or responsibility for whatever they're doing. And I even tell people that when they're like guys or girls, when they're trying to find someone to date, I'm like, if you work out and you think that you're going to find someone with a good discipline level at the bar that's not going to the gym, like that's a recipe for disaster. But at least in the gym, you kind of know, like, hey, I see this person all the time. And the networking part, like, that's why I like this gym when I came to this area, because I saw the same thing. I was like, man, there's not really any like I want to say not like cool gyms, but more like everyone just seeing to themselves.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, that's fine. You want to work, but at the same time, you want to come to a place where you can feed off of what everyone else is doing. And like I can see that from the CrossFit thing. It's probably just saying like, leave the kipping out of here. Don't.
Yeah, but okay. I haven't kipped in a long time.
I do it almost every day. But if it's one thing that I've seen develop here is that Steve's, and his crew's brought to the table, man, it's really, it's an environment that's not, it doesn't really conform to a clique. It actually allows a person to be an individual part of a community. And it's a really interesting flow that happens here. And you meet just some of the most interesting people that got something to contribute to your day.
Yeah, and that's to piggyback off to what Dave was saying. It's the community, or hence, it's a culture, not a club. I mean, that was the one thing, is like our values is community, culture, and consistency, right? Like you have to build, whenever you're building a business or putting a business together, you have to have that mission and values in place. And knowing that, it's like my number one thing was culture, like I want this to be a cool hub for people not to just work on themselves physically, but mentally too. You know what I mean? And I say that all the time. Like people are like, oh, you work out for 2 hours? I'm like, no, I work out for like an hour and 20 minutes and I talk for about 45. You know what I mean? It's just because I know everybody in here and I'm getting to know everybody and everybody's getting to know me. And it's like, that's part of it too, is like start your day off right, like communicating with like-minded people.
It's usually, to me, it's like a transfer of energy. I used to, people used to say, why do you like knuckle bump? It's like, what do guys do? I said, to me, I think it's like other ways of acknowledging a guy putting in work and kind of like cheering them on, but we don't like cheer each other on like in a goofy way. It's more like, yeah, keep doing it. And people sometimes need that, because sometimes you don't know what they're going through and they're never going to talk about it.
For sure.
But sometimes you see people and you're like, yeah, you're doing your shit, keep doing it, bro. And that's it. It's
kind of like tapping in. Obviously, one guy's stepping out of the ring, the other guy's stepping in.
It's like what is it, the Predator? You son of a bitch.
I was just talking to my wife about it. I was like, dude, I've never like had so many DMs by dudes like saying, keep fucking like direct messages on Instagram, dude, keep crushing, you're looking so good. Or like me DMing other dudes like, hey bro, like you're looking good, like keep it up, and that's what it's all about, is like recognizing, men and women that have high standards and holding them to those standards, right? Like that's the whole idea of like, being in proximity of people, like-minded individuals, is because you guys guys and girls should hold each other accountable. If you see them slipping, like, figure out what's going on, that type of thing. But I mean, that's why you do surround yourself with, a good group, a good culture, because they won't let those little things go on for too long.
Oh yeah, there's always a correction. And I think is like what you're saying is right, like-minded people. It's the same thing with me with like the messages, because there's a lot of guys I think that feel a certain way, but when they see other guys talking about it or speaking on it, it makes them feel more comfortable. It kind of, I want to say, they say the rising tide raises all ships. I think that's kind of what it is when they see someone like, because I know sometimes things I'll post on Instagram, some people will deem as controversial or that's not, but I don't get a lot of guys that will be like, yeah, someone needed to say it. And I sometimes know that they can say, because from being in law enforcement before, I know sometimes your job doesn't allow you to maybe be as vocal as you want. So when someone else says it, you're like, yeah. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part about social media, is that everybody has a voice. I mean, that's not unfortunate. It is unfortunate. Free speech, free speech is great, but it's like, come on, bro. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
So there's no accountability to it.
Correct. Like, I just see shit all the time. It's like, and then you go jump on their pages to see who it is, and it's like it tells you exactly the type of person.
Picture of a sandwich and a fake profile picture.
Yeah, shit. Yeah.
Whereas when you do find like an environment, when you're in proximity with people of like common goals, I mean, it's a lot easier. I mean, to find yourself championing that, in them, and in turn, it just reciprocates, and so it feeds the beast, man. And everybody's working for a target.
Pretty true. Yeah. I mean, accountability is huge, right? That's like one of my personal core values, and a core value in along with others, in all my other businesses. Accountability is the biggest one, right? It's like, so me, people know, and Dave, like we're at the gym, almost every day, like, or every single day at 5 a.m. So it's like, there's so many mornings when I get up at 4:15 and do not want to go on my cold plunge, but I post it every single day, more to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
And then that way, if I don't do it, like people, I'll walk in here, you know, I was late one time at like 5:30 or something, and 3 people were like, "What the fuck you doing? Like, what are you sleeping in?" It's like, fuck, if I didn't come, it would be the end of the world, you know? So that's like the idea, right? Is like to hold each other accountable, but in a good way, because they know where our standards are up here.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, obviously if you're sick or something like that, like,
It's like, hell, just roll out of bed and get your ass to work. And then, yeah.
so, but yeah, the power of proximity is huge, dude. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it makes him, because I tell people, me and Dave didn't know each other, and then me and you met before. We would just see each other at the other gym and and then it's kind of like, okay, he's cool, and then you end up meeting each other. But that's why I tell people, like, you never know like how you're gonna interact with someone, and it's always, I think for business or personal, it's always better to be cool, because I always see a lot of people, I feel like they're very to themselves, and they don't want to like put themselves out there, even like not here so much, but in you know, other gyms. I know what you mean. That kind of where it's kind of like you're trying to do something better. You're trying to be obviously a different version of yourself, but you're doing the same pattern of behavior. Like you're already trying to do something different. So be a little bit more sociable. You don't have to like, you know, talk with everybody, but at least reach out and say, hey, what's up? And you see a lot of people, they relax more after that. But before you guys came in, there was a guy that came, what's his name again? He was talking about, yeah, Elijah, he wanted to talk about podcasting. He wanted to be on the show. And these are just people we just meet in passing. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, I just learned from networking the old school way is like, I call myself the master icebreaker. Is like, I'll just walk up and be like, hey, bro, that's a sick jacket. Like, where'd you get it from? You know what I mean? Like, just that's like, you have to have like to break that barrier, because chances are 90% of the people around you like are feeling somewhat timid too.
Yeah.
So just breaking down that barrier really quick, then they'll have that conversation. But a lot of people won't do that, you know?
Yeah.
But once you talk to them, they really do want to talk and they do want to open up.
Yeah.
But it's like just that initial like icebreaker, you know? My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, just watch this one. This is a good one, you know?
I've done it a lot here with like any random person who comes into the gym and they're for the first time or something like that, or they don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Just even like a short off the wall comment, that gets their attention, you know, and the look on their face, all of a sudden, all the stress just kind of falls off.
And then it'll just be some random shit. Like just say something and then it breaks that not tension, but it breaks the ice.
You know, I always see the girls winking at Dave. Like, tomorrow, Dave.
Dr. Dates, I didn't want to say anything, but it's okay.
I'm a chiropractor. No, that's a big, I think definitely and I think coming out of, I heard someone say it was like coming out of COVID, you have a lot of these younger kids, I think they struggle with those social skills, and it kind of sucks for them, because I think maybe the isolation makes them feel like, oh, I can't just talk or ask for, I don't know, not that they need friends. I don't know if that's necessarily it, because sometimes the vibe you get from people like that is almost like, hey, maybe you're just not interacting with enough people. So it's almost not even standoffish. It's just more of a to themselves, and they probably need someone to like maybe, hey, what's up, man? What are you working on today? And get, like you said, over time, breaks that ice with them, breaks some of those walls down, and they actually start, talking a little bit more, and you get to know them.
Well, I mean, those two younger kids, well, you don't come in till later, but those two younger kids, they're like 15. Their mom works out in the CrossFit and they class right here, Ryder and the other homie. But that first, like, super shy and timid, but I made it a point, like, to every single day I go up to him, and now they come up to me. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, what's up, Steven? How's it going? I'm like, taking those pictures, those progress pictures. They're like, yeah, well, we are, and so now they're like conversing. So especially for like young 14-year-old boys that are in a place like this that is somewhat intimidating at first to look, but yeah, I think that's the big thing. Like even at this gym right here, like you see from on social media, looks super intimidating on this, but you walk in here and you have that one conversation right when you walk through the door, and everybody's super humble, everybody's super kind. The best shape or in shape girl is willing to give up information and help you and root for you if you're a woman or a dude. And then same thing with the dudes, like the biggest dudes in here, the most jacked ones are like always willing to like, help you with your form or spot you, or that was the whole goal too. It's like, I didn't want to open a place to where okay, this guy's on the chest press, you know, I got to wait over here and, you know, go do something else. It's like, no, walk up to him, ask if you can spot him, and hey, can I work in?
Yeah.
And like, you see that a lot going on in here, you know?
And that's just because I think in the fitness community, you know, because I always like pay attention to things. I think a lot of I want to say big fitness influencers, you kind of see where they almost become cliquish to like be, but it doesn't really help anyone. They're almost like want their audience to be fans to them instead of being like, well, you're kind of missing, I think, the point of what you started off to do was to help people. Now it's not really about helping people. Now it's about, hey, look how cool we are. And eventually you kind of see those guys go downhill because people kind of realize like, yeah, you're kind of selling some bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy watching it because you just see people like have it all and then
It's something crazy to watch. You can get, I mean, that's a whole nother business conversation about that, you know, they don't have their systems in place, dude. You know what I mean? And it's true though, because, you know, social media, you know, builds a lot of these influencers up to where I think you said at the very beginning of this podcast where it's not even really them.
Yeah.
Like I know quite a few that are like super loud and on, you know, very boisterous on
these rainbow bunnies, we're back at the gym.
and then you see them and they're like, what? You know, they don't know what to say. So it's like, it's just be a good fucking person.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you never know, like you said, you never know what that person's going through, or anybody's going through in the day. Just a quick smile, a quick knuckles always goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think that's it's the like being authentic and also not giving. I'm always big on about not giving people bad advice or unrealistic advice. I think last week we had talked about this idea of sometimes like if you have all this money or you're the most famous, that will make you happy. And I always tell people if that was the case, then you know you wouldn't have famous people that you know take themselves out. That so a lot of it is not that. A lot of it is like to me it's acts of service. Of what I've seen is when you help other people, that ultimately usually helps you, and that's not going to always be telegraphed over social media. You know, it's not gonna be something like, hey, I give this, hey Dave, get a phone, let's go get this bum some food and I need you to record it for me. Like sometimes it's gonna be something you do, no one will see it, and nothing may ever come from it, but you know you did it, and that's just what it is sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's one of the biggest traits of a true leader, right? It's like they don't need to be in the spotlight. Like you want to build everybody else around you and have them in the spotlight, you know, not for any reason, but you just are humble enough to where you don't need all the recognition all the time, you know? And I mean, I didn't really start really diving into leadership until probably 2014, you know? And that's like, and it took me, I mean, it's so funny when people are like, oh, he's a natural born leader. It's like, there's no fucking natural born leader. It's something that is like studied and practiced every single day, you know? So it's like those ones, you know, when they do downfall like you're talking about, it's because the limelight got too big on them and they weren't used to it, and they weren't in, you know, truly in a leadership position before. Now they have all this influence and they just don't know what to do with it.
No, and I agree with what you're saying about, you know, it's like becoming the leader is not, I don't think anyone, it just naturally comes. You know, I was you know, being a cop for a long time, I always felt like I had to do a lot of different positions to learn them. You learn how every person's a little bit different. And like you said, the biggest part of it is if you're doing it just for your own glory, eventually people don't want to follow or listen to you. If you're just doing it to actually help people, people will still listen to you. I mean, a lot of the guys I still work with, that's why they'll still message me. They'll still talk to me. A lot of guys will be like, yeah, I'm going through the police academy or this and that. What's your advice? And these are all the like just conversations. But to me, that kind of says, you know, to me, I find that more enriching than just me saying, hey, let me like glory for myself. Like, let me just talk about, and because a lot of people were telling me like, why don't you ever really talk about just law enforcement stuff about yourself? I said, that's not really the point of what I started the podcast for. It's more like to have conversations about, you know, with other men about what worked and what didn't work. So they don't have to do it the hard way. I don't think this culture right now where it's like, where you have some guys like, hey, I need to completely crash my life out just so I have a story to tell on podcast needs to happen. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. You can actually, you know, make some good choices and stay the course.
Yeah. I mean, lift other people up that have crossed their life, you know what I mean? And it's like, you don't have to have like this crazy backstory of how hard this, everybody had a hard fucking past, right? I mean, a lot of people did, you know? And so, yeah, it's just this Instagram and social media thing. It's just, it puts the spotlight on people that haven't really lived a true realistic life. A lot of them, you know, that blew up so fast, which I feel adds to the younger generation trying to compare themselves. You know, I got goddaughters, 19 and 21. I have nieces and nephews around that age. They're always comparing themselves to like, this guy has a Lambo. I'm like, that fucking thing is rented, bro.
Yeah.
Like literally they lease these things in the planes and then shoot a couple things for 20 grand and then bounce. You know, like don't compare yourself to that person. Like
I had a guy where I had posted up, it was some streamers and I had posted up something about like, this is the problem kind of with men, because they were like, one of them couldn't even like work out or do something, and so he kind of made this comment where it was like, well, you shouldn't make fun of them, this and that. And I was like, yeah, I should. I said, because these guys influence, they make millions of dollars. They're not little kids, they're in their mid-20s or like that, and they're influencing a bunch of kids to live a lifestyle that isn't realistic to anything they're doing. They're hiding behind bodyguards that say go talk shit to grown men that would beat the shit out of them any other circuit. I said, so no, I'm not gonna take it easy. I said, someone besides me, probably their dad, should have pulled them to the side and said, act right. You know what I mean? I said, you've been blessed with all this stuff, so someone should pull you to the side and say, hey, you know, be a little bit more humble. Act you don't need to be like a clown in a circus, you know, to entertain people.
I think there's another side of leadership though too, that it's the difference between, you know, just going around and telling people a way, but rather showing them. You know, you want to actually kind of be an example. That's the only way you can actually really impart like a behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell somebody till you're blue in the face, you do it like this, you do it like that, but if you can't pull it off, then it's really just a house of cards at that point.
And listening too as a leader, because a lot of times the leader isn't there all day long. You know, I do it with my employees at my other companies all the time. It's like, if you have a better way, like, let's see your way, you know, because I'm not working the day-to-day operations anymore. So a true leader will step back and allow them to move forward with their ideas and be there to pick them up when they trip and fall, because they're going to trip and fall. You pick them up, you learn from what you tripped and fell on. Now let's improve off of it next time, you know, and know that there's that stumbling block, and let's continue forward, but always just be there to pick them up. Obviously, if they keep tripping and falling over the same shit, that's a different story. But it's like, you have to let them make those mistakes. I mean, the amount of mistakes that I made as a business owner over the past 16 years, that's the only way I learned. I don't want to do that again. You know, but that $10,000 mistake 10 years ago would have been a $10 million mistake now. So if I wouldn't have made that mistake back then, and I made it now, it would be way worse, you know? So I made all these mistakes, learning moments throughout the years. And I feel like, you know, you have to have those. You're not going to be, nobody's perfect, dude. You know?
It teaches you, I think, how to like scale what you're doing, because I think sometimes like the people that get it too fast, they didn't get the process of, hey, this doesn't work. So now by the time they get there, they're more seasoned, I guess, like to kind of do it. If it all comes at once, it's just like it's almost like we used to call it like drinking water through a fire hose. You're just getting blasted with all of it and you don't know what you're doing. It's funny about the MySpace thing that you brought up, because I actually was listening to that this morning. The whole guy was telling the whole story. It's a story of MySpace and how it was like worth, I think at one point, like $75 billion, and how they could have bought Facebook, but they didn't. And just and that was kind of it. It came down to a leadership thing of them kind of like not improving, putting things in place, until pretty much when they sold it at a loss. I think they sold it for like 35 million, and they lost like, you know, whatever billions of dollars. It's like crazy.
Yeah, you have to be willing to adapt and overcome. You know, that's another big saying. It's like, and if you're not willing to put forth the effort and be willing to change, like, especially how fast things move nowadays, like, you have to be willing to like change and figure things out. Like with the whole AI thing, you know, if anybody that was resistant to the internet back in the 2000s and websites and SEO, which my dad was super resistant. He's like, you're spending $5,000 on a website? I'm like, yeah, because allaboutevents.com, like I need a .com, and I'm going to build a badass website and spend this much money on marketing for the internet. And he's like, you're crazy. I'm like, okay. And that's the only reason why I was able to blow up as fast as I did, is because I invested in that. So the same thing with AI, like, it's here to stay. So like if you could figure out a way to use that as a tool to help with time to where you can actually give back to like the human interaction.
Yeah.
Because you're so bogged down on the admin bullshit, you know? If you use it for an actual tool to free you up and then be able to have more human interaction, I think it's great. It's going to be bad for the ones that literally use it to like think for them constantly on a day-to-day. But I think, you know, as far as a leader, like I'm encouraging all my employees to use AI to free them up from all the monotony of their day-to-day. That way they can go out and meet people and but bring VIP clients out to lunch and have that, you know, human connection while AI is doing all the stuff over here, you know?
Yeah, it's a streamlining also. There's a lot of companies that are now telling their way, we're going to use AI for this and that, you know, certain functions of the thing, because it makes sense. It's a tool. It's like, so why resist it if it's going to just help you do your job better, but not lose that balance of the, you know, the human interaction and getting those like customer skills and talking to people and not just being like, oh, what should I wear today?
Or like the what fucking people that have like a actual relationship with them. You hear about all
So ridiculous. Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, I
mean, like him.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I understands me better than anybody ever did.
Yeah, no shit, these are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say, since from what kind of inspired you, or maybe what leaders inspired you to kind of take the jump to start your own business? Or was there a turning point, some event, or did someone tell you? Lucy, I always think there's kind of always something that as a man's lens, you're like, it could be something that happened before a conversation that Lucy sets you on your path, like thinking differently.
So it wasn't really a moment. I mean, I grew up, you know, in a split family and stuff like that, where money was always tight. You know, parents divorced when I was 4. Grew up in a mobile home park with my mom and my sisters. My dad, he traveled a lot, so we would stay with him like every 2 weeks. Money was just always an issue, so I just started finding little ways of like, you know, making a couple dollars here and there. Like in 5th and 6th grade, I'd sell pogs and baseball cards and shit like that, you know. And not that I was making a ton of money, but like I always just had that drive to and not just to make money, but to relieve the stress, because I saw how much stress it put on my mom.
Yeah.
You know, like asking for money from my dad for soccer cleats, and it was this huge fight, you know, because they're in a divorce. Yeah. He paid so much in child care or child support. So it wasn't really like one person. I think it was just throughout my life of like wanting to not rely on anybody, because I didn't really have a bunch of leaders around me. I played sports and everything up until about my freshman year, and I quit everything. And it's unfortunate, because if I did have a mentor or leaders or somebody like look up to, they could have talked me out of that. And then so business wise, it kind of just kept going through high school. I started kind of doing a little more questionable stuff in high school, you know, and then I went to the complete opposite side, and then went to the oil fields, started working on the oil fields and working for Cal Fire on my 7 days off. And then how I started my first company is on my 7 days off from the oil field, I was helping my ex-boss at the time landscape his house for his 50th birthday.
Was that for the event one that I saw you talk? I saw that. You talked about it.
Yeah, so then a local rental company came and dropped off tables and chairs. I unloaded the truck for him, signed the bill, $1,100. I'm like, fuck, you just paid $1,100 for this shit? This is like 2008, and I was 22. I'm like, and this took me like 10 minutes to unload your truck. So I went and bought an enclosed trailer, found a chair and table distributor down in Long Beach, pulled the trailer down there, wrapped it in Party Partners rental. And actually in the parking lot right here, Vaughn's parking lot in Atascadero, I'd park the trailer out there with my phone number on it, and people would just call me for tables and chairs, and I would drop, 20 tables off here and 10 tables off over here, little backyard parties. And then that's just where the first one started. And then quit everything in 2010, I finished Fire Academy at Allen Hancock, quit everything, and then went into the rentals full time.
That's cool. I like what you said, the part about, because you were doing sports stuff, and even though no one ever like maybe reached out to you, that when you talked about earlier about, hey, when you see kids, you reach out to them. I think that always comes back to when people want change, you have to do the thing that you maybe wanted people to do, even though no one did it for you. I always tell people that, like, my stepdad raised me, but he was always working, things like that. I said, so I never, to me, for myself, I never experienced like the father, son, but I always have been there for my kids. And I always tell people, I said, I could be like some people, that are very much like, well, my dad wasn't there, so I guess I won't be a good dad either. And I always tell people, I said, I don't sympathize with that, because I think it's a choice. You kind of, and that's why I like that you kind of, what you said earlier to what you said now, it kind of shows like, hey, just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean someone else doesn't deserve it.
For sure. Well, like, it goes full circle. That's why I coach every single sports team of my son's since he's been 6. You know what I mean? He's 13 now. It's like, because, I mean, I did have a good coach, Paul Patty. I still remember him to this day. You know what I mean? Just a very good coach, good guy. But I remembered how impactful that was, and how sports could have kept me out of all this trouble if I would have continued on and somebody pushed me to do it, because I know how important a father figure or man figure is in a young boy's life. And my son being 13, it's like, I knew that sports was a great outlet. And out of all of his friends, or all the ones on the team, I guarantee a few of the boys didn't have that, the same father that my son has, of me. So like, it was always like, I wanted to pick all those kids up, and give them the opportunities and put them around positive reinforcement. And I did that through coaching, So it's been super cool. And now the boys are 13. Half of them are even bigger than me now, and they're like, what's up, Coach Steven? I could take you now. I'm like, no, you can't, bro. There's no way, But it's cool to like see them since 6 years old playing t-ball and soccer. Like now, some of them are 6 foot tall, and like they're like little men now, and they're good kids. So that was like the one thing that I wish as a kid, but that's what shaped me, like I could have gone through high school playing sports and that type of thing, but if I did that, my life would have taken a completely different path, I guarantee it. So
well, I think that's kind of one of the reasons, like when some of my friends will ask me like, oh, why did you start doing the podcast and things like that, I said, well, back in, I don't know if Dave has any input on this either. Like, I feel like our parents and that generation was more like work, drink beer, chill. No one really talked about their feelings or anything like that. And I'm not an overly emotional guy, but I do understand that a lot of what's going on right now that we see in politics and society is because men we can't take that role no more. We have to say, hey, this is not right. This is, this is wrong. This is how you should conduct yourself, because I think part of trying to, I don't want to say destroy the country, but part of it is telling men like, no, just be quiet, be passive, and don't do anything. It'll be fine. And that we know that doesn't work. And it's not that our dads didn't maybe try, I think, but they were just used to that was how it was. And we're kind of like, I want to say, I feel like the men are a little bit, we've learned from our dads, like, hey, yeah, it's good. We got to be hard workers, true, but we also got to like be there for our kids. Like, you got to add that other element to it and kind of take the ball from where they took it and then run farther with it. And that's what I think is always the goal for men.
Well, I think we did kind of grow up kind of what I would call the pre-Oprah Winfrey era, where everybody just started becoming soft. Yeah. But I mean, there wasn't like a whole lot of like some verbal communication. Yeah. That actually ended up being useful. But I mean, there was a lot of demonstration of like, you need to get this in lines or something. But I'm forever grateful for it. I mean, because even through the ups and downs, I mean, you start to get to the point where you really do discover who you are through it, and then you know how to really navigate the world and what you can do for others.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard part, because you have kids, right? Yeah. Yeah. Boys, 3 daughters. Okay. Yeah. So that's even, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old boy. So I'm at the spot right now to where it's like, I know how hard when my dad was in town, like how hard he pushed, like for me to play sports. And like, that's when I went and resisted. I'm like, fuck you, you're never around. Like, I'm not going to play, because he wasn't physically, physically there, and wasn't doing it in a way that was encouraging me to play. It was like, you have to do this. So I made a decision as my son's dad is I'm going to encourage him to play, and he wants to play every sport. I really wanted him to play football, and he didn't want to play football. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to force him, because I know if I start to force him, he's going to resist just because I'm having him do that, you know? Same thing with wrestling. I'm like, I wanted to wrestle so bad in high school or like junior high and high school, but nobody ever kind of, you know, steered me in that way. And he just came to me 2 days ago. He's like, all right, I'm ready to wrestle. I'm like, fuck, thank you, God. You know what I mean? Just because I want him to be put in tough situations. And like tackle football, that was the best thing for him 2 years ago at 11 years old, you know? Is now he doesn't even want to play baseball because, and it was fucking hard for him, you know, like hell week, you know, hitting, because he's not like a very aggressive kid. But it's like the mindset shift that I saw after that first month of tackle football, bro, it was crazy, dude.
I think that's one of the things that actually we kind of keep coming back to is in developing as a man. I mean, one of the most important things is the physical activity. I mean, your physical ability is the first thing you have that you ever really learn how to use, you know, and learn how to use that effectively. And when you play, say, you know, sports, you know, you do all the physical activities, you really learn how to take a hit and get back up. Yeah. And that's practical, but it also ends up being metaphorical in a way.
And like,
because it actually translates to everything else you're going to take hits in everything you do. Or are you just going to sit on the grass and just, you know, cry it out?
Yeah.
You get back up, you're going to get on the line, you're going to charge it again.
One of my friends sent me like a long text, but to kind of, I guess, like put it shorter, is basically, if you look at before, men had rites of passage, right? Tradition. And now where you see a lot of people, if you don't give them a rite of passage or they don't deem that they have one, then they create one. So I always used to say, you know, when people would join the military, I said, like myself, it's a rite of passage. If you're going to law enforcement, fire, it's a rite of passage. Starting a business is your right. You're trying to, I think for men, there's a point where you're trying to prove something to yourself. It has nothing to do with no one else. I even think that's when people join gangs, clubs, whatever it is, it's easy to join some kind of thing to prove like I can do this and kind of create that maybe like I belong to something, and good or bad, you know what I mean? It could work both ways.
Well, it goes back to what we started this thing off with, proximity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The power of proximity, no matter if it's in a gang, because in their head, it's like, they're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
They're just doing what their homies are doing. They're protecting their block and this and that, you know, like, or football team, like you're super involved with the football team. That's your proximity. You know, they have the same beliefs. They have the same standards.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. Good.
You know, I was gonna say, and Dave said with the fighting back, you know what I mean? Even that brings people closer together. And I just thought of it because we said the proximity, because there was a guy who was a Hell's Angel. He talked about when he had a son, he said him and his son weren't always close until his son wanted to join the Hell's Angel, and he kept telling him, no, I don't want you to join. And eventually he said when he joined, they became closer than they ever been. But it was that mutual, like, hey, we're fighting our enemy. So it's kind of they connected through that. And so that's sometimes as men how we kind of are, you know, with things.
Yeah, it's definitely something new every day, raising a son and a daughter, and growing up myself too. It's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Like, I'm learning something new every day about myself and, like, you know, my limits that I have and everything like that. So, but I think it's so important to be able to have conversations with anybody, like conflicting, not even whatever, we'll say politics. Yeah. Like that's what we're lacking right now, is because those icebreakers that we talked about, people don't know how to break that ice and talk to each other. If you have a conflicting thought on politics or fucking food or whatever it is, people don't know how to argue constructive.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes with friends, it goes with business partners, it goes with marriages. Like, you need to learn how to communicate and, like, argue fair.
Yeah, and I mean, you can disagree and you can still care about each other and disagree. Like people that probably don't know this, but I have a lot of people that are very left-leaning liberal that I'm close to or grew up with, and they'll literally, when I post on it, they'll sit there, they'll message me about it, and we'll have some whole discussion about it, but we're never calling each other names. So half the time we end up just laughing at the end of it. Like, we're not going to agree, and we just laugh about it. But to me, that's what it is. It's like, we don't have to agree. It just understand, this is my point of view, this is yours. Doesn't mean you think of them any less, or and people can't do that now. Now they almost like want you to, like, I'm gonna beat the ideology of what I believe into, and it's like, that doesn't work, you know.
Yeah, well, nobody really kind of establishes a commonality. I mean, it's all interaction. I mean, especially with social media, again, it's all just based on contention. You know, you don't even recognize that, you know, the person that you're having an exchange with might have so many things in common with you. You know, they want to pay the rent too. You know, they want to feed their kids. They want to do all these common things that you're going through. You know, but points of view may differ. You know.
But I mean, we've talked about it here. It's like emails and text messages and that type of thing. It comes off completely different than through the internet, and through like, it comes off completely different to where you could have been like joking about it, and like they were all mad when they read it, so they took it as like an argumentative thing, to where then it just gets blown out of proportion. Then you have 50 other people commenting. Then it's just, then it's Minnesota.
Right.
I think it's one of the things I always try. I always notice.
That was a good turn. Thank you for that.
I think because people, when they disagree, like I notice in my comment section, if they disagree with me, they usually lead it off with the insult, but then try to make a point. And it's kind of like, if you're going to try to make a point, why not just lead with that rather than say, hey, hey, stupid, I don't agree with you, this and that. And then you're like, okay, bro, I'm like that already tells me like you're not really trying to have a conversation. And that kind of just shows, this is what I try to tell people. I said, I grew up in a very an area that had a lot of gangs, been in law enforcement, we're prison, military. I said, I've never had I've seen guys just go up to other guys and say, hey, stupid, like, or insult each other like that in person. So that tells me, like, you're doing this from the safety of, your grandma's basement, your like, and you're not being authentically here. Those guys, like, I always laugh at them because I don't feel, one of my friends says, oh, does that ever get you mad? I said, no. I said, if anything, I feel bad for them because that's not how they are in real life. It said, if you are, you're probably getting beat up on a daily basis.
Well, you're right. And that's why they're doing that, where from the safety of their keyboard, is because of that. And it's, and that's why I honestly don't even lift a finger to respond back on that type of shit. It's like, I literally just, I don't feel bad for him at all. I just fucking laugh at him. I'm like, you're a fucking piece of shit. I'm like, you're crazy. Yeah. And so, it's just the time we're in, there's just so much animosity towards one side or the other. Obviously a lot of it's politics, and I feel one side is like, they're at a point to where if they admit that they were wrong about one thing, that they have to acknowledge and admitting themselves they've been wrong the whole fucking time, to where at least the other side, I feel, is like, well, that side, I'm not saying which side I'm on, but will admit they're wrong as they go. You know what I mean? It's like, I fucked up. I made a mistake. I was wrong. I shouldn't have posted that, or I said the wrong thing. Right. Let's move on from it, and then I'll make another mistake like we talked about. Yeah. I feel it's like some people are just so guarded because they're hanging on to that. Oh, this is how I feel, and this is the truth, You
guys got to remember what culture they are.
It's the things that they've actually picked that define their identity, rather than just little aspects of life that they're navigating. So you got this one thing that they got to hold on to, is that this is the be all and end all. Yeah. And if this comes crashing down, well then, what am I? I got to get some hand grenades. Yeah. Well,
I think the culture too is because I think the culture for most men is like, you can grow up with your friends and maybe something happens and you fight each other, and then you like, after you're like, okay, whatever, you hug it out, you become friends again. And if anything, as long as you respect each other more, well, at least he fought. You know what I mean? But they don't understand that. They think I want to say it's almost like do or die for them. You know what I mean? Like, just even meeting halfway is like too much. Being just like, well, it's because, and I like that what people say is like, if you're calling people, Nazis or fascists, you're basically trying to dehumanize them. So that way you think that they somehow are generally wrong in everything that their perception is to make themselves. I always joke around about it, but I believe it. I believe that they think this is like a movie. They think this is Star Wars and they're the Rebel Alliance, and everyone else is just this big bad. And it's like, no, it's like there's a middle ground. We don't always have to agree, but there's certain things that need to be done and certain things that, but it could go a lot smoother, and there definitely could be compromise if they didn't, become so emotional and wasn't just always like, I want to attack everyone.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, you see it all over the news, and obviously that's a whole nother topic. His, like, I mean, I don't even know who it was talking about it today, but basically calling every single ICE agent like Nazis.
Well, Nazis, just all,
Yeah.
pick one. It's all.
It's like, and that's like, literally he was on a press conference saying that there's 350 million people in this country. And now, the ICE is acting like little Nazis. It
was a governor.
Yes, I was like today, like it was, and it wasn't even Minnesota. It was somewhere else.
Yeah.
New Jersey. I don't know, but yeah, it's like that type of shit right there. So you're putting everybody into one. Like, we don't do that to the other side. It's like, yeah, there's some crazy nut jobs in that group, right? But we don't say every single one of you in this group is a nut job,
Right.
But the other way around, it's like, if there is one nut job, then it's 41 million nut jobs.
I think that's a good example of like bad leadership, right? Because what you're doing is you're basically you're kind of telling your demographic or your people that listen to you to basically hate one group, and which can lead to actions that eventually get them in trouble. Where a real, I want to say, we're a real leader or a good leader is going to say, hey, you know what, this happened, but we need to get the facts. Don't make any rash decisions, because you're not looking for people to sacrifice their life off of a knee-jerk reaction to something that happened. You're always trying to like, okay, we may have to, let's look at this and see what happened first before we make a decision type of thing. Because knee-jerk reaction, good, like whatever side it's on, is always, I think, the worst reaction, because you're just now doing it off of an impulse instead of putting yourself in those shoes. And I always tell people, I joke about it all the time on Instagram, like, being a cop is like, there's so many things that go on at one time, and you have a certain amount of time to make decisions, and people that never did that said it's easy to sit back and like, let's run this in slow motion and see exactly what and I'm like, it's not like that. It's very different. And a lot of people, they can't handle, I know they're having a lot of memes like, you can't handle daily stress of life, but you somehow will be able to handle this.
Worse. Yeah, and that's the thing that I always say too, no matter like in life and business and everything, is you have to always be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so as far as a leadership standpoint, like, it's our job to be looking 30,000 miles ahead. That way we can be proactive and not just be like, all right, we're going this way as fast as we can, and then crash. You hit those walls like I did for the first 6 years of my business. It was like 1,000 miles per hour, go, 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 till I was like, okay, let me pull myself up over here. Let me look at all the dangers ahead of me. That way I can protect not only myself, my business, but my people.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, this is going to be this is going to be a roadblock over here. We're going to have to pivot and go this way. So a lot of these, politicians these days, have not lived even just a realistic life, or, had any challenges in their entire life yet. You know what I mean? And it's like, on top of that, it's like, it's poor leadership all around on both sides. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we have some not good, and these online political influencers too, on both sides. Like, I think that's a problem too.
What I don't like with them is they kind of just start feeding into it. Like, and this is because I've had a couple people say, oh, I don't know what side you're on. I said, bro, it's not about being on the side. The fact is that if we want to make things better, there needs to be a little bit of compromise, and there's also needs to be where, just when you don't agree with something, you don't necessarily start like feeding into the fire of agreeing with something. Because I think anytime I've served under guys that were there where I may not agree with them, but sometimes I learned that sometimes you don't see what they're seeing. You know what I mean? That's what I learned, especially being a cop and in the military. Like, sometimes your leadership is seeing things that you're not privy to. So they're making decisions based off that, where everyone under them is like, why would they do that? And then when you kind of, after a while goes by, you understand like, oh, well, they had some information that I didn't have. And I said, so sometimes people, they can't put themselves in their shoes, and that tells me, well, then you're not really training yourself to be a leader. You're still thinking like a soldier. You're still thinking like, you're not really understanding the bigger picture. And what you said is funny about the looking up, because I had a guy that actually told me that when I was a sergeant. He pulled me in his office, and he was our director. Said, hey, he's all, as sometimes you're the player, but when you start becoming the leader, you're like the coach. And then when you're the coach, you become the general manager. And the more you get farther away, you're making decisions that affect the whole game. And you got to understand that sometimes people are not going to see that. You're thinking 5 plays ahead, and they're mad that you're playing this play right here, but it's to get to this play.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of the nuances that go into being, good leadership.
Yeah. And I think, with that being said, it's like trust and respect, right? It's like, that's another one of my core values at my company is like, you have to earn that trust and respect through being consistent, accountable, and disciplined, right? And I have to do it as a leader too. Like, my team has to trust me. If I'm telling them to be accountable, be consistent, be disciplined, and I'm over here fucking eating cheeseburgers, like being a slob, like, why would they ever trust and respect me? Because then I'm just telling them what to do. I'm not showing them and leading by example, right? It's like, so what you're saying about your sergeant, like, you didn't question him because you probably trusted him, because he earned that, he earned that trust from you to where you're like, I don't know exactly what 30-mile ahead view he sees, but I'm going to trust and I'm going to get behind him,
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people that are in leadership positions, they did try to demand this respect. And I've told this to many of my managers and stuff in my other companies and stuff like that. I'm like, you can't just fucking come down with an iron fist and demand respect, bro. Like, just because you've been here for 10 years, like, you have to earn that shit. Like, you think that I demanded respect? No, I was the first one to show up, last one to leave for 7 years straight, 7 days a week, loading trucks, sweeping floors, doing everything, cleaning dishes. I earned that, you know what I mean? Like, I earned that respect from these people to where now I can step back and they're not going to ask questions or doubt me or not trust me, and just go along with what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And once I break that trust, I'm never going to get that back from that person too,
Yeah, I think leadership is definitely built on, like you said, the trust, and they see that you kind of get those wins, even if they didn't see it at first, and then that allows them to be like, okay, we stick with the plan, and it builds up that, like, okay, yeah, we'll do it because we know it's gonna work out in the end, even if we can't see it right now.
For sure.
Cool.
Another big thing, and then I don't know how long we have, but one big thing that I learned actually recently, probably 3 years ago, once we got back through COVID and I had to rebuild everything. It's a book called 4DX, 4 Disciplines of Execution. And it's basically about, because your family's a team, your sports is obviously a team, your business is a team. So me as the business owner, like, because my goals are up here, like my financial goals and where I want the company to be, a lot of my employees honestly don't even understand or even care what that goal is. Yeah. So the idea behind 4 Disciplines of Execution is you break them down into team goals, right? So like, okay, here's my ultimate goal, which they don't even need to know about, like to hit $6 million in revenue or whatever that is. Like, that means nothing to them. So warehouse, we break down their goals, knowing that their goals are going to eventually lead, if they do all these and hit all their lead measures to get to their lag measures, are going to hit my ultimate goal, but you have to get them involved, right? Hey, what's your guy? Here's the goals for this department. Like, how can you guys contribute to this goal? Like, no go backs. That's a big one on no go backs on a truck, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the goal for this department. And then, no broken inventory. So those are these 2 goals. So they can understand that as a team, right? You guys are a team. So as a team, how can you guys accomplish these 2 goals? Oh, and then they start spitting all these ideas and like all these crazy ideas. You write everything down. You narrow all those crazy ideas down into 4 lead measures that will lead to that lag. You know what I mean? Lead to that lag measure. Now they can get on board with that because they came up with those ideas to get to those team goals. Now you hold them not only accountable, but you meet on a consistent rhythm and you keep score. Like, you keep a scorecard, right? On these 2 things. Is when you're watching a sports game and the scoreboard falls down, the fuck's the point of being there? Like, if you don't know the score.
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind that is like, you build these individual team goals that each one's going to eventually get to the overall goal. because like I'm just the owner. I'm from over here, you know, like yes, they trust and respect me, but like I have financial goals. They don't care about that. You know, some of them might, my managers might, but the teams, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting. Just like you have to break it down, like even down to the person that is working for you 20 hours a week, like they have to be aligned to, you know?
Yeah, we actually found like stakeholders. Basically, like they have to feel invested in what, not even what you're trying to get to, but invested in what they're doing and how that kind of, people have to see, not want to say the benefit for them, but they want to feel part of like they're moving in something positive direction for you. And like you said, sometimes it's always to tell guys, because not that they didn't need to know, but sometimes, like you said, not telling them the goal, because sometimes it's just things that they don't need to worry about. Sometimes it's worry, you know what I mean? That they don't, like you may have a goal where you're like, hey, we need to hit this. So, you know, as a leader, you don't put that worry on them. You're just say, I need you guys to do this, this, and this. And that way they're not feeling that worry. And that's kind of sometimes that role of where you're holding it. You know what I mean? Like, now I'll keep this. I don't need to know this because it's not something they need to worry about right now.
Well, and this generation, like honestly, you know, the 18 to 25-year-olds, they really don't care about money, dude. They just need enough money to like pay their gas bill, come to the gym, get their green juice, and, you know, listen to a few podcasts. They need to be part of something.
Yeah.
They want to be part of like the bigger picture. So if you're not painting that picture for them as a business, if they're working for you, if you're not explaining the mission, the values, the vision of the company, like they'll get behind it. Like, but they need to know what that mission and the vision is and those core values. And you need to articulate that as the leader and make sure that they not only understand it, but agree with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, can you get behind this? Do you understand it? All right, let's roll, you know? And like, yes, they need to get paid and compensated, but I feel this generation just really wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. That's why we're seeing a lot of what's going on both sides.
Yeah.
But it's our job as the leader to articulate and paint that picture for them. And once we paint that picture for them and we get them to buy in, that we have to do what we said and lead by example too.
You got to make a prospect like a motorcycle gang.
That's they're in our, you know, and the mission, the values, and the vision of that company or life. It could be on a personal note too. It doesn't have to be business, you know.
Yeah.
Like this is what, you know, as a family, this is the direction we're moving in. Here's our core values, like honesty, kind-hearted, whatever those are. And you know, this is the 10-year vision for our company or our family. You know.
Yeah. People always work harder when they're part of something. Yes.
It's the never-ending stretch to try to figure out your own identity and where you fit in. You know?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people have lost.
All right, no, Miguel's probably like, wrap it up, guys, wrap it up. Last game. No, that was a good podcast episode, Steve. Thank you for always letting Dave always do the podcast here. We appreciate it. You know, that's always, I think it's I used to always feel like, oh, well, they're probably going to tell us to stop because they're talking about too much controversial. They're hurting everyone's feelings right now.
Yeah, I do think that.
But then once I saw you like chiming on some different things, I'm like, nah, he's with it.
Oh yeah.
He typically will post, because I think it's conversations that need to be had because, like you said, I always tell people I said I know there's a lot of big influencers, but I think the thing that kind of makes us different is if you look at a lot of what other people are doing, it's a lot of superficial, surface level, I want to say almost fucking fantasy land things, and a lot of what it's just like the gym. It's, you know, it's more about what people don't see that actually is going to make you a good person and have a fulfilling life and feel proud. It's not all these things that social media. I think social media is a great tool, but you know, there's also a side of it where people are living in fantasy land and it's not true.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's too many other people like that. But yeah, I think, no, you're obviously more than welcome, you know, anytime, and even bring some, you know, controversial guests on here and see.
We'll try our best. Is there anything you want to close out with? Anything you want to like put out there? Any of your businesses, if they need anything? Dave's putting out his he's gonna start like a male stripping service for birthday party.
Man, where'd you keep that on the down low for a while, man?
I've
Still working out the details.
I've seen his outfits that he's picking out there. No, I don't need to throw any plugs out there. Just keep doing a good job and keep speaking, you know, your mind. And you're welcome here anytime. And really the plug would be Gain Station, Alessi Gym. You know, what we're doing over here is a lot different than a lot of gyms here locally and just anywhere in California, really.
Yep.
And everybody's welcome. You know, it's a culture, not a club. Like everybody's super welcoming, and we're not cliquey at all. Like we want to see all, you know, all different walks of life in here for sure. Like that's what we're all about.
Cool.
I'll tell you what, it is a privilege to work for this organization, and I have a lot to learn from this man right here, and I really look forward to it. It's been a while since I've been this fired up to be a part of something and behind something. So
Oh yeah, Dave's the man, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lucked out with that one, so everything kind of fell in place, and I consider him a great friend. And little did we know, we actually know of a lot of the same group. You know, my brother, step brothers, and everything like that. So yeah, he's a good old A-Town vet. So here we go. So yeah, Dave's awesome. Everybody at Gain Station's awesome, members and staff. So we're stoked.
Oh yeah, so visit Gain Station. We'll wrap it up from there and we go.